If Congress doesn't make any changes by 2032, we expect a 20% cut of Social Security benefits across the board. This was the latest finding in the 2023 Social Security Trustee Report. Now, what does this mean for your retirement? If the Social Security system isn't fixed, if it isn't made solvent, what does a reduction in benefits mean for your optimal Social Security filing strategy? In so many situations, I see a current retiree that might have an optimal filing strategy of age 68, and they're looking at this potential reduction in benefits, and they think, okay, if there is a 20% reduction, how does this shift my filing strategy? And they immediately look at filing as soon as possible. But if we look at the hard numbers, is this actually the case? Would a 20% cut shift your Social Security strategy that substantially? Now, know that I had a little hesitation even in recording this video. I don't want to give a ton of attention to a lot of the fear-mongering articles that are so prevalent in the news today. I think it is highly, highly unlikely that we see a reduction in benefits at all for current or soon-to-be retirees. And there are two big reasons for this. The first is Social Security is so essential to so many retirees. And as the baby boomer generation fully moves into retirement, you guys are the largest voting bloc. And any way you slice it, congressmen and congresswomen's number one goal is to get reelected. And so making some substantial changes that will cut benefits for retirees, I think is incredibly unlikely. And all of the discussion around it right now, all of the grandstanding is simply a show. The other thing to note, the steps to fix Social Security are much simpler than most people think. For instance, if we take the payroll income limit right now, which is about $160,000, if we just eliminated that limit, eliminated that cap, and we applied payroll taxes to all taxpayers on all of their income, we would see Social Security solvent out into the 2050s. That's a pretty simple and small change that will affect a small amount of earners. Another relatively small change, if they just raise payroll taxes by 1 percentage point, that would make Social Security solvent almost indefinitely. And so know that we're going to walk into this stress test in today's video. But I really don't believe that the data that we show in this video should really drive a huge portion of your Social Security strategy. That being said, let's get into it. Now, to walk through this case study, we're going to be using our Social Security software. And with this, we're going to first look at a single retiree. Now, this is Laura Johnson. She just recently had her 64th birthday. Okay, we expect her lifespan to be about 90 years of age, and her full retirement age monthly benefit is $2,500. Now, down below here in the software, you can see that we can mess around with quite a few variables to upload and kind of look at different analysis of her filing strategy. First, what we'll start to look at and hone in on is the discount rate. Now, for those that aren't familiar with what a discount rate is, we know that a dollar today is more valuable than a dollar, let's say, 5 years from now. This is because there is a time value to money. Okay? Because of this, in order to calculate out how much more valuable a dollar is today than down the road, we want to use something called a discount rate, essentially the growth rate that we expect on that dollar. Now, any number that I put in here, somebody's going to find an issue with. We could put this number all the way up to 5, 6, 7, 8%, trying to look at a diversified portfolio. Right now, I have this simply in here at 3%. I'm matching what we're assuming inflation is in this example. Now, the problem with uploading a substantial discount rate like 8 or 9 or 10% is because we're looking at a discount rate as a straight line method, meaning that, again, it would basically mimic the return of a CD. And we know to earn an 8, 9, 10% return, there's going to be a sequence of return risk. And so because of this, again, you generally want to use a slightly smaller discount rate or at least subtract a few percentage points in order to deal with a sequence of return risk. Then we're going to look at some pretty simple approximate tax rate updates to her plan here as well and discount by whatever given taxes she's going to owe. And then later on, we're going to start reducing these benefits for that given cut that we will expect to see in 2032 in this example. And so what this Social Security software will do is it will look at every given month that she could theoretically file, and it will look at the cumulative present value benefits of those given strategies. We want to take the highest present value calculation. And what you'll see down here, if we look at what's going to be described as the primary strategy, Laura's primary strategy with living to age 90 is to file at age 70. We can see this would generate about $637,000 in cumulative benefits. Now, as you adjust discount rates, as you adjust tax rates, know that this cumulative benefit number will adjust as well. Now let's go over here to the Compare tab, and this will allow us to compare to other filing strategies like filing as soon as possible or filing at full retirement age. And what you're going to see here, if you look at the total benefits, she receives a substantially higher benefit or cumulative benefit by delaying until 70 and receiving those increases within her Social Security benefit. We see about a $100,000 benefit here if she lives to the normal life expectancy. And if she ends up living 10 years longer, we see, over $200,000 in added cumulative benefits. Down below here, we can see the break-even analysis, and we can see compared to filing earlier as soon as possible, that break-even happens right around age 81. We can also see this on the right-hand side of this graph, or rather table here as well. And we can see when this break-even happens once again. Now in Laura's situation, we can see a pretty substantial benefit for her delaying rather than filing right away. If we compare this to the full retirement age benefit, no, we will see the break-even move back slightly, but nonetheless, we still see the most optimal filing strategy is for her to delay until 70. Now, one other look that I want to take, something that I find quite interesting to show the retirees that we work with, is showing if she would pass away earlier than expected, if she wouldn't live till 90, how would that shift her filing strategy? And this software is great for looking at something like this. So this is something called the Social Security Zone. And down below what we can see is her life expectancy on the x-axis. And then these colored bars will correspond to a different filing strategy. And so you can see here that yes, we are inputting her life expectancy at age 90. But even if she passed away at age 86, we would still find that her optimal filing strategy is age 70. Then every subsequent year she passes away before age 86, we see a slight shift in her optimal filing strategy. For instance, if she were to pass away at age 85, we can look at this light blue bar and we can see that corresponds to her filing at age 69 and 10 months. So essentially still filing at age 70. And so if we just look over here at this map, we can see that her Social Security strategy doesn't really adjust substantially outside of filing at age 69 and 70 unless she passes away at 82 or sooner. But let's go in here and focus on what happens if there's a benefit reduction. We're gonna go back into her overall settings and we're gonna change the reduction year to start in 2032, and we're gonna upload a 20% reduction. Well, again, as all of these calculations are run, we see that the cumulative benefits does drop. This is to be expected. If there's a reduction in benefits, there's gonna be a reduction in the cumulative benefits. But interestingly enough, if we go down here and look at her optimal filing strategy, we still see that her optimal filing strategy is age 70. We see no adjustment whatsoever. And so this might surprise quite a few retirees. Oftentimes we have a quick reaction that if there's going to be a reduction, we should file as soon as possible. But we don't see that at all in Laura's situation. In fact, she should still stick with the same filing strategy. This is in part because a reduction would happen across the board. Now, a case could be made that, yes, if you file earlier rather than later, you're going to receive more full year benefits before that reduction happens. But the benefit of delaying her benefit and all of the increases she would have still overcomes that small reduction. Now, if we go over here once again to the Compare tab, we can compare this to filing early. Once again, you will notice that the overall difference does drop. The break even does move back. It looks like 2 years in this case. It was 81 before. So know that there will be some adjustments in the numbers. You can see here, just to prove out that this reduction is happening, in 2031, full benefits, 2032, there's a 20% reduction across the board. Nonetheless, though, comparing to filing early, we still see there's an overall benefit in delaying. Now, if we compare this to the full retirement age filing strategy, we know that the gap drops once again. And so maybe when you look at the benefits and drawbacks of each filing strategy, maybe you do end up shifting it up slightly. But know that the optimal filing strategy technically doesn't change in this example. Next situation, we're going to look at a married couple, John and Julie Davis. Now, John will be turning 62 a little bit later this year. Julie will be turning 64 a little bit later this year. Now, for John's lifespan, we're looking at him living to 82 versus looking at Julie's. Julie, we expect to live until age 90. Okay. Now, with this, we have John's full retirement age benefit at $3,000, Julie's at $1,800. Now, if we go down a little bit further, again, we have pretty much the same settings uploaded for this analysis. Slight shifts overall in their tax rate and the amount of benefits that they will see taxed here as well. Well, let's look at their optimal filing strategy first. assuming we don't see any reduction in benefits. Now, the first thing that many would think, if we look at John's life expectancy and we inch that closer to his current age, we look at age 82 as that life expectancy, many would think that that would drive him to file earlier in terms of his optimal filing strategy. And in reality, we don't actually see that being the case. Part of the reason for this is because when you look at a married couple and making sure we're coordinating those benefits together, oftentimes it makes sense for that higher earner to delay until 70. It's really that lower earner's benefit that you want to affect and potentially move and file sooner. The reason for this is because of something that we call double longevity. When that higher earner passes away, their benefit in full will pass on to the surviving spouse, and that surviving spouse will lose their lower benefit. And so because of that, that higher earner's benefit will last the longer of the two lives. And so with this, we can see their optimal filing strategy for Julie being at age 69 and 7 months, and we can see for John the optimal filing strategy being at age 70. Okay, we see cumulative benefits come in here at about $1.1 million. Now, if we go to the Compare tab, we're going to see the difference between filing early. And once again, you see some substantial benefits from delaying their benefits. If we just go to normal life expectancy, and this is showing John's normal life expectancy here, we can see that there's about $150,000 benefit for delaying. If they end up living a decade longer, we see this grow to about $400,000 in added cumulative benefits. And so we can see that delaying Social Security can really add quite a bit to your retirement, or rather the optimal filing strategy can add quite a bit to your retirement. Now, if we go down here, we can once again see that the break even happens right around at age 80 here. And again, if we go over here, we see the gap or the difference between filing early grows to about $140,000 by the time that we expect Julie to finally pass away. Now, again, we can compare this to something like both of them filing at full retirement age. And we would see, again, the gap or the benefit from delaying slightly decrease, but this is to be expected because full retirement age means they're already delaying to an extent. And so given this all, let's go back and look at what happens if there is a Social Security cut in 2032. Again, we'll go into their settings screen and we'll upload that given reduction here. And then we'll see what their optimal filing strategy ends up being. And once again here, we see that for the most part, their filing strategy doesn't shift in a great way. Now again, when I talked about before whose filing strategy should shift, if we start to mess with things like reductions and longevity, we've looked at the lower earners benefit being the one that we mainly adjust. And that's exactly what we see within this analysis. If we see a reduction in benefits, know that their cumulative benefits does drop a substantial amount. But if we go down here, we see that Julie's best filing strategy now is to file at full retirement age. John, however, should still stay pretty close to filing at age 70. And so with this, again, what I want to drive home is yes, in this specific situation, we see a bigger change than we did in the single retiree situation. But the change that we do see is a lot smaller than most retirees would think. Once again, if we go into the Compare tab, we will see a slight shift in benefits and differences of different filing strategy. Again, you'll see here that the filing benefit from looking at their optimal strategy versus filing earlier, this gap does shrink slightly. Again, you compare this as well to looking at the full retirement age filing strategy. And again, this should potentially lead to a discussion between the advisor and that given client. In some situations, you might see a greater difference in overall filing strategies. For instance, if we went to the edit client details and we looked at, let's say, John being significantly younger, Julie being older, Julie having a smaller full retirement age benefit, John having a slightly larger full retirement age benefit, that would mean that Julie is eligible for something called a spousal add-on, and she's not able to take that spousal add-on until John has filed for his benefit, which means there's another coordination that needs to happen. In that type of situation, you might see things affected in a wildly different way. You might actually see John's best filing strategy to be much sooner so that Julie can get that spousal add-on. This is not to say that everybody should delay. This is not to say that nobody's strategy will be affected. But through all of our analysis, through all of our clients, when we get this question, oftentimes the difference or the change that they would have in their optimal filing strategy is much smaller than they would originally think. And that's really the message I want to drive home here. Too often we see a lot of these fear-mongering articles that will lead people to make rash and quick impulsive decisions, when in fact, if they actually looked at the numbers, they wouldn't see a shift in their optimal strategy at all. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know if you liked this video. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. If you're looking for other ways that you can improve your Social Security filing strategy, I have 2 alternative ways to think about delaying your benefit and look at the benefit of, well, delaying your benefit. You can see what I mean in this video right here. Always remember, you don't need more money, you need a better plan.